So, I have a discussion to start. I have heard that there's a lot of conflict in the LGBT community about divisions. One thing I noticed is feminists and transsexuals are often clashing. I think one reason for this is that transgender people assume that the definition of whether you're male or female is which role you fill, where feminists are saying, girls can do anything. So I think if a few post-operative trans, or even pre-operative, or at any stage, decide that they can be a boy and a girl, they can live in both worlds, as the Indians say, that would make a huge inroads with uniting with feminists, because they could easily be strong women. And that's the other thing I want to bring up, is oftentimes women don't realize that they can be physically strong. I've heard that women shouldn't hit men because men can hit harder, but realistically, men are not invulnerable and women are not children. But I think one reason for that is that currently women are expected to be slim and tiny. If women got used to being larger and not starving themselves, they could be physically strong. If they were big women who were physically fit and active, they could easily be just as strong as a guy who's known for his strength. I don't know, the moves would be different because they're shaped differently, but they could be strong if they didn't starve themselves. Another thing I want to bring up is the fact that gay and lesbian people are now saying that they're not a lifestyle. Well, that depends on how you define lifestyle, as a hobby or as the way you choose to live your life. And if you choose to come out and take part in gay rights, gay pride festivals, same-sex marriage, that is a way of life. So yes, it is a lifestyle. Being straight is also a lifestyle. Getting a girlfriend, going on dates, all kinds of stuff that people don't think of as a lifestyle, but it's definitely a lifestyle. Just that it's ubiquitous enough that people don't think of it as a specific lifestyle. But there's a lot of things, like we didn't have gender identity until transsexuals became prominent. Then it was a thing that people had to look at. And it's hard to define people as cisgender because that could be literally anyone who's not transgender. And there's no real type that all women or all men are. But homosexual and heterosexual are easy to define because it's heterosexual who actually seek out relationships with someone of the opposite sex. That's what you can clearly define. There's a lot of variety to it. I mean, there's all kinds of people in straight relationships and all kinds of relationships they can have, but it's still definable. Another theme that I've seen is that people are afraid to talk about their problems. It's like, it's not what you think. You don't know what I'm thinking. You're not a mind reader. How do you know what they're thinking? It's not as bad as it looks. Well, how do you know how bad it looks? Stop making excuses and just talk about your problems. You might not have the right terminology, the official scientific language for your problem, but if you try to explain it, people will listen. That's one thing I've seen, is that people are taught in school that if they don't use the correct terminology, they're just flat out wrong, when in fact terminology is made up as we go along to make sense of the world, and that's what people are doing. So that's the other problem with is the education system. When I was a kid, teachers would tell me that words didn't exist if they didn't know them. A solution I recommend: have a dictionary or look it up online. When kids use words in their writing or when they're talking to you or each other that you don't recognize. If they are wrong, you can tell them. The other thing was, the same thing is true with art and writing. What's realistic? Well, look it up. Maybe those things exist and it's not quite what you thought it was. So there's another point I wanted to make as grade school, is that there's different levels of real. There's imagining a lion. There is an actual lion. in between there could be a lion puppet or a person in a lion costume of varying levels of realism. There could be a stuffed lion. There could be a taxidermy lion. But that's not just lions, it's anything. There's different ways it could be real or not real. Like toy weapons, real weapons, training weapons that people use for practice. There can be, same with fighting techniques in a movie, there could be realistic fighting techniques that are exaggerated in the effect. Like it could have Superman doing a real judo throw, but because he's super strong, he's able to throw people higher and further, but that technique could work if you were not super strong. Or something like hard science fiction, where it's real science. It could, in theory, happen in real life, but it might be state-of-the-art technology or something that nobody thought of, but could still exist. And I want to see that in writing. Which brings up another point with the gay and lesbian community, is I had this story I've been planning to do, which I think would be really interesting, is like about transgender people in love. Because you never see that. Or at least I've never seen that. I don't know, maybe it's been done before. If anyone knows any examples, I'd like to hear them. Basically, it would be an FTM and an MTF who fall in love while they're transitioning, and the gradual change of their relationship status, the dynamics of the relationship, and whether they're a gay couple, a straight couple, a man and woman, or a woman and a man, changes over time. I think that'd be a really interesting story. Another fiction I want to see is like, people always talk about gay bashing. Gay bashers are more likely a teenager who doesn't like gay people and doesn't really know much about them or care than Fred Phelps from Westboro Baptist Church. You know, it's rarely the people who attack gay people, rarely are they obsessed with it. It's not usually a religious thing, and most of the time they're not racist. I don't know of any examples of I don't know the full story of Westboro Baptist Church. The reference when interview them, ask them about other issues, race, interracial love, the environment, other religions, see what they feel about that. And also just realize Westboro Baptist Church is still nonviolent. They're not nice, but they're not violent. They don't attack people physically, so I think we should keep it on that level when dealing with them, and realize you can be non-violent and not physically hurt people, but still be ruthless. There are so many ways you can fight somebody without hurting them physically or killing them, and especially when you don't play fair. And that's, I think, the best thing to do with gay bashers or racists, or especially gay bashers, because it's a very complicated issue, is find ruthless ways to take them down without physically hurting them. The other thing I want to say is, in regards to another thing with gay bashing, is most gay bashers, they don't really know the full story of gay people. A lot of them think that gays are rich. Most gays are not that rich. Some are actually pretty poor. One reason gay bashing has been justified longer than racism is the assumption that being gay is a choice. People say it's not a choice, but I would like to see, where is the scientific proof about whether or not it's a choice? Where are the scientific studies? When I see that, I would like to talk about it. But I think people need to show that, because they're saying that. But this is another point I want to make. Without proof, there is no truth. Until you can prove something, you don't really know if it's true. And the other thing, you can't prove something based on who says it, how often it's been said, how many people say it, when it's been said, where it's been said, and who disagrees with it. It's only how well you can explain it. That's all for now. I'd like to see some discussion. Have a nice day.